2007, a few of us at the university had the idea, with people in the Philip Larkin Society, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of his death in 1985. I mean, Larkin, perhaps the greatest English poet in the second half of the 20th century. He was a librarian at Hull for 30 years. We need to get Larkin known, first of all, in the city which inspired his poetry. So it flowed from that, really. How do you do it? How do you involve? How do you fascinate the largest, the majority of the population of the city? Well, why not let's have an animal sculpture trail? And we thought, well, we'll go with toads.
The idea was it should be a crazy idea. That was the whole point. When we were sorting out the programme for Larkin 25, I felt we needed something which really captured people's imaginations and made them think twice, because otherwise Larkin's just a poet and there's no way of triggering people's imaginations who don't know anything about him. So the idea of toads was that people are going to see them on the street and saying, what the hell's that doing there? And that'll make them ask questions about Larkin, and after that hopefully they'll look at his poem.
I thought the idea of a toad trail in Hull was just ridiculous, to be honest with you.
I thought it was the most balmy idea that I'd ever come across.
I thought it was a crazy idea as well. And I did wonder about how it worked and how it would be, local people would accept it, whether they would get on board with it, and also local companies, because obviously they were getting the private sector involved in the toads as well.
The deal of clinching the business sponsorship became absolutely crucial.
It was the beginning of the recession, so it was quite a challenging time, and also the idea was something completely beyond most people's experience, so it was a bit of a struggle, but we were really fortunate that there were a number of great businesses in the city who got it straight away and said, yes, we'll sponsor you.
Just thought it was a very unique project. There was a little bit of scepticism around the region about it, and we couldn't really understand it. And art, we've always felt, as a property development company involved in regeneration, that buildings are great, we can build the buildings, what actually happens inside them, and the cultural environment around it is very important. And something as unique as this, you knew could actually stimulate a lot of interest in the arts arena.
To be honest, at that time I just couldn't see the vision, but when they started appearing I thought that's absolutely bang on, it was fantastic.
Quite clever, because it was literally all the 40 toads were put in overnight. So, all of a sudden one morning, everybody was coming into work or going to the shops, etc. All of a sudden there was this plethora of toads around the place, which then just stimulated that interest straight away.
But it was fantastic to have living sculptures effectively turning up all around the city, and every single one was individual, so designed by different people for different reasons.
I was there that first day when they got plonked overnight onto the streets, and I was on the main square handing out maps of where the toads were. It was a joy to see the surprise on people's faces, and I've never seen such exhilaration, really, because they were expecting the worst, some duff idea, and they saw what they really were. It was just that joy of being surprised, pleasantly surprised, overwhelmingly surprised.
They were wonderful and they generated such a lot of excitement.
I think it was interesting, different groups of people going round, people who were perhaps out on the town of an evening would go and have the pictures taken near them. It attracted all sorts of different groups of people, which if it does that, you're onto a winner.
They had a kind of like a little smile on their face, the toads, and they couldn't help put a smile on your face as you walked by them.
And I was there one day and this gran came with her granddaughter, and she was taking her little granddaughter around, all of them, with this little teddy bear, and she was placing the teddy bear by each toad and having a photograph taken of the teddy bear with the toad, and they got a complete set.
Very quickly the toads became a part of the community they were in, part of the city.
Everybody felt a sense of ownership with the toads, and immense pride that this was something that we as a city had created.
I brought my 2 children to the city centre specifically for the toads. They wanted to come and see the toads. We did the tour 3 times. We went into the tourist information centre. We saw the merchandise. They wanted the magnets, the books, the t-shirts, and that was replicated across the city, across the local region, not just the city.
If you'd been involved in developing one of the toads, for instance these local school children, it's just, again, it was that sense of pride. We've got a toad. Everybody wanted to have a toad. So, and then it just took off from there.
The children were just they wanted to go around all, they wanted to clamber on them, and that was one of the beauties of them. There were sort of bits of art that you're not allowed to touch. People could climb on them, people could have the photographs taken with them, etc.
And that probably made me take the kids to places I wouldn't have taken them to unless them toads had been there. I visited parts of Hull, which I hadn't been to before, but I certainly hadn't dreamed of taking the kids.
And so it brought people into the city, and it brought money into the city because people actually came to see the toads. And obviously while they were here they did other things. They were looking at the business opportunities whilst they were here, and they were looking at the rest of the cultural offer. So I think in terms of raising the profile of the city, it was a fantastic thing to do. I think sometimes when you're working in a city, you're not aware of all the talent that's there. So it gave artists an opportunity to show what they could do. I think the results made people sit up and take notice of Hull. It was quirky, it was particular to Hull, it was something different, and it gave us an opportunity to showcase ourselves, I think, in a different way, and get other people to see us perhaps as an artistic city, and perhaps they hadn't done that previously.
There were a group of lads, a group of teenagers who you wouldn't have associated with appreciating animal sculpture trails. And I tried to give them a map, and they said, no, we don't want one. Come on. They said, no, we think they're fantastic, but we want to find them all ourselves. We don't want your map, we want to find them all ourselves, go away. And they spent the whole day, because I saw one of them afterwards, just going around the city centre, like a hide and seek, And they're just, these lads just acting like 10-year-olds, It's just wonderful.
Well, the site manager was just amazed, because it's out of town, so it wasn't just a town centre project. They were just sending the amount of people that were just coming out to bag that toad. They had a list of 40 toads, they wanted to see them all, and there was like coach loads of people coming out to see it.
I can't believe the interest it generated. I've got engineers who I would never dream of thinking they would want to be involved with fiberglass toads, Philip Larkin, and all of a sudden, we sat down having a cup of tea in the morning and we're talking about Philip Larkin. It's not normal for an engineer in the nicest possible way. It doesn't seem right.
I mean, I remember being in a city centre event one morning, and the librarian, this librarian came in and said, I think you're doing a wonderful job with these toads, Graham. They're so beautifully kept. Every morning I see, you've got people out there washing them down and cleaning them. I said, no, we haven't. He said, oh. He said, well, I come to work and every morning I can tell you there's this woman and this bloke and they're cleaning your toad. I thought, well, that's great, I've nothing to do with us. The media came round very quickly. In fact, the local newspaper, although it had reported negatively earlier on, I think knew what was coming. And so they were on board. They asked for copies of our map, so they reproduced it in a big centre spread, and they wanted photographs of all the toads. And it was described as a huge overnight success. And then you got the letters to the editor, which were almost 100% positive. And then you got the things in the blogosphere, which you get the usual mixture of the usual rants but people recanting and saying, I thought they were going to be hopeless, but actually they're wonderful.
I just remember going on Facebook and Twitter, and everybody was, I've been to see these toads and we're going out tomorrow to get the rest of them, and it just created a really good talking point around the city.
It kind of took over social media, it kind of took over online, it was on the TV, it was just everywhere. You kind of couldn't go to a meeting or you couldn't have a conversation without someone mentioning a particular toad that they'd seen.
Having worked on promoting Hull for many years, it's been a real struggle to get national recognition for good things going on our city, but the Toads and their link to Larkin 25 really did put us on the map.
Throughout the length of the project and the duration of the project, we had journalists from national papers, from regional papers, and indeed from Dutch, Belgium and German papers. So it was touching those cultural communities across Europe and indeed the world via the website as well.
And it just produced this ferment of interest in the press, on television, in schools, colleges, every aspect of society.
It was quite transformational in terms of the interest, and we were talking to a lot of businesses at the time who realised that we'd got involved in it. And back at the back end of that project, they're all saying, why didn't we get involved in it? And we were very, very keen that if another project came along, they were all, well, actually we get it now, we understand it.
I think the city, it came out of it enhanced, its confidence grown, its image. How can a city like that produce such wonderment, such glorious joy?
When the project was finished, we went forward for awards, tourism awards, and we won gold twice in the regions, and then we went forward for the national awards, the Visit England Awards, and there we scooped the silver for best tourism event. We beat the Grand National.
And when you come away with an accolade, and the little bit of text that comes with it from the judges ends up with saying a superb initiative which involves the whole community, you think, yeah, that captures quite a lot of it, and the fact that it's a city of Hull that's right at the heart of it gives me pride.
It makes people realise what's possible. People hadn't realised this was possible before, and now they realise it is possible, and that Hull, it's possible in Hull. Because Hull hasn't got the greatest reputation. There is an external perception of Hull as being a bit of a drab place. It's always dull in all, you know. And it isn't. It's a great city. And I think the Larkin 25 programme as a whole, and Toads in particular, helped change people's perceptions.
I think people are far more open to this kind of public art project, and I think a lot of the scepticism and cynicism has disappeared. People want this kind of thing now.
Businesses really get now how important culture is, not just to local people and their local lives, but also to the economy of the city, and they now really understand that that has to be part of the bigger picture of regeneration. It's absolutely essential.
And people still talk about it now, and I was in London earlier in the week and sat in a meeting with some business people in London, and they were talking about Hull, and one of them actually raised, oh, that's where they had the Toads. You know, it's still 2 years ago, but they remember a lot of the PR that came out, and it was actually, it wasn't sort of forced PR, but actually, you know, journalists actually come into the area because, oh, there's something happening in Hull, and so it brought focus to the region, which actually helps our business across the board.
Art, creativity can bring joy. You know, I don't think we ought to mess about with words here, because that was a word that kept coming back, joy. And it's not just on children's faces, and that was evident to see, but it was adults as well. You know, a number of people have come up to me and said, I thought this was a lunatic idea, but you know, I love those toads.
Fantastic way of bringing focus onto an area.
It's about art, it's about engagement, it gets the communities involved, children, old people, youth groups.
There may be some initial scepticism, but people will get on board.
Get involved, embrace it, encourage it. If you can sponsor it and support it, you'll get a fantastic amount out of it.
It's a cost-effective way of people getting involved, whether it's for trying. You're not really promoting your own business, you're actually promoting your region.
I think sometimes some people in the beginning missed an opportunity because they didn't see the potential of it.
What Larkin was told to prove is if you get the right idea and it appeals to the imagination, this is the way through to thousands and thousands of people.
It'll instill that sense of community pride, and it'll help put your town or city on the map.
I would say go for it, because you'll never look back. It's fantastic. It brings the community together. It gives you pride. It'll generate funding for you in terms of economic growth. So, and it also gets people talking and being engaged in art.
It's a different way of promoting your city, and it's actually a way of actually getting something that is unique, which will actually have an impact far further afield.
The pleasure was to be seen on all the faces, actually, and to witness and to feel that you've been part of something which has touched, again I use the word advisedly, touched the hearts of so many people. It was a great privilege to me, and that's what shocked me, because I hadn't foreseen that. Yeah, very moving.
I still like talking about my toad. I do. Worrying, isn't it? I lead a shallow life.